Surging Sparks is coming out soon, and there's actually so many interesting Pokemon EX and other cards that I want to experiment with. In today's video, we're going to be experimenting with Sylveon EX with its amazing Angelite attack, being able to lift up 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon and sending them back into the deck. I think Lost Zone might be one of the better ways to be playing this card, so that's the deck that we're going to be covering. The list is available in the description. If you need any of the cards for it, check out our sponsors at Kayfabe PTCGL store. Give this video a like. Let us know in the comments what you think about this deck, and let's jump into the deck profile and how the deck might work. So here we have it, the Lost Zone Sylveon deck. And I mean, it's looking like a Lost Zone deck. We've recently seen Lost Zone Box do well at some regional championships, with Michael Davidson coming second place at Louisville Regionals. So we know at least that part of the concept is really valid. And I mean, Andrew Hedrick did win the 2024 North American International Championships with a Lost Zone Box deck. The deck is certainly successful. So we're going to be basing the deck off the Lost Zone engine. We have Comfey, and we have Colress's Experiment, and we have Lost Vacuum that can add cards to our Lost Zone. So Comfey's Flower Selecting allows us to look at the top 2 cards of our deck, grab one of them, and the other one goes to our Lost Zone. It's gone forever. Now, having a card gone forever might sound like a really bad thing, but at the same time, it might be a really good thing. In this case, we have Pokemon, and we have trainer cards that allow us to accelerate energies or do damage or do different things based off the count of cards that we have in our Lost Zone. So Cramorant's really going to be our first stop. Cramorant can attack for free with its Spit Innocently attack for 110 damage if you have 4 cards in your Lost Zone. We have Mirage Gate, which is really what kind of ties this deck all together, that if you have 7 cards in your Lost Zone, you can accelerate up to 2 different types of energies and attach them to your Pokemon. So that's really going to be our main way to power up our Pokemon. But really what makes the Sylveon EX portion of this deck work, we'll get into that in 1 minute. Sableye is really going to be our last stop on the Lost Zone Express, where if we have up to 10 cards in our Lost Zone, we can use its second attack and spread some damage counters to our opponent's different Pokemon. So getting back to getting cards in the Lost Zone, Comfey, Colress is our supporter. We can look at the top 5, grab any of the 3 cards there, put the other 2 cards back into the Lost Zone. Lost Vacuum is just really a 1-up to get rid of random things, but we could also get rid of our Artisan or anything else and add to our Lost Zone as well. Mirage Gate's really what's going to allow us to power up Sylveon, because it takes Psychic, Water, Lightning, which are actually the 3 types we would normally play in this Lost Zone Box deck, because you have Psychic for Sableye, you have Lightning actually for Iron Hands EX, and we have Water for Radiant Greninja. So we have a lot of different energies already that work, so Sylveon naturally works in this deck. And my whole thought process about the strategy of this deck is, what if we use Cramorant, Sableye, and Radiant Greninja, maybe Iron Hands EX for your opponent's little Pokemon, and then if they have a big Pokemon, or multiple big Pokemon, you know, those big stage 2 setup decks like Charizard and Dragapult EX, we can actually just kind of lift up those Pokemon with Angelites, send our opponent back, hit them with that Roxanne late game. They're down to a really low hand. We counter catcher up a Pokemon they don't want in the active spots, or prime catcher it up, or iron bundle it up, and now we lift back our opponent's good Pokemon, and then they just kind of pass back to us. Then we can use Sableye again, or we can attack with Sylveon's first attack, which isn't necessarily as good as Angelite, but it's kind of like a Hisuian Grudra V-Star, so it's okay. So we have some options there, and that's kind of where this plan works, where it's like, maybe Sylveon can allow us to tie some things together. After playing through some gameplay with this deck physically, it kind of works. I mean, I think like Lost Zone Box decks, it can be a little inconsistent at times. Like if you don't get Colress on that first or second turn, you're just a little bit behind because your Pokemon are low HP, a little bit of a liability when they're in play. But Sylveon's pretty cool and can definitely allow you to kind of take the games back, especially if your opponent has Charizards, Pidgeots, Dragapults, Hydreigons, whatever in play. If you play against other Pokemon that are kind of the big basic attackers like Raging Bolt, Roaring Moon, then Cramorant, Sableye, Radiant Greninja, even Latias, Blood Moon, Ursaluna EX, Iron Hands, like those are all normally fine, and this deck is almost 56 out of 60 of what Michael Davidson's list would be. The cool thing about the Eevee that's featured in this deck is if your Eevee's in the active spots, even if it's your first turn, you can evolve immediately into Sylveon. Or if you put the Eevee down and play immediately and you get to the active, you can evolve into Sylveon. So in the mid to late game, we can put down our 50 HP, which is normally a liability Eevee, because of Dusclops and other Pokemon that might be able to spread it, and then instantly evolve it so we don't have to really wait that turn, then just go ahead and use our Mirage Gates, power up our Sylveon with a Mirage Gate and a manual attach, or a double Mirage Gate. That's really going to allow us to do a lot of cool things. Like I said, the whole Roxanne, Counter Catcher, Prime Catcher kind of plays that we have. And the other new card that we've added into this deck is going to be the Latias EX. So Latias is going to allow us to have free retreat on all of our basic Pokemon. So they have no retreat cost, meaning that Comfey can now free retreat into another Pokemon and utilize flower selecting into a flower selecting, allowing you to chain them a little bit more. You having a little bit more resources. Something like Blood Moon can retreat, and then you can get into a Comfey. Maybe you didn't have that switch or switch card. Then you could use flower selecting. Then you can switch back. So it does take a lot of reliance off from having another switch, an energy, even having a rescue board in this deck. So that part was really cool about this deck. I did add an Iono into this deck as well. So just having a little bit more of that disruption element when it comes to utilizing the Sylveon EX. Blood Moon's going to be a staple when it comes to this deck. So as our opponent goes down on their prize cards, we basically get a bigger attacker, similar to Radiant Charizard. Enough switch cards, enough normal cards to kind of search through Nest Ball, Buddy Buddy Poffins, Hisuian Heavy Balls, because we do have a lot of one-ofs when it comes to this deck. I think that this deck, it's certainly a great place to start when it comes to this deck. Like I was playing around with it, I was like, you want to know what, this list like on paper looks almost perfect for a Lost Unbox deck. The thing that I might want to change is cutting a 1-1 Sylveon line. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Sylveon's not going to come up in every single game. And if you play against like a Raging Bolt or a Terrapagos or anything, like we're not really utilizing the Sylveon portion. We might actually just want to get 2 spaces back. And that's something that we could add to the deck to make it a little bit more consistent, add cards like Pokestop, add whatever else we want. Otherwise, the 2-2 seems fine. Iron Bundle is a card that I'm kind of divided on. It's Sylveon with the Angel Light. You want to have the Pokemon in your opponent's active to the bench. What if your opponent brings up that other Pokemon that you want to shuffle away? So maybe on one hand, we can knock that Pokemon out with Blood Moon, Ursaluna EX. But we also have the double counter catchers to bring up whatever we want if we're behind, or we have a boss, or we have anything else like that. I could see Prime Catcher being changed for Unfair Stamp. That's one thing that I was kind of thinking about in the back of my mind while I was playing against PJ, against his Charizard deck, that maybe I could utilize a boss or a Colress and then still disrupt my opponents. I mean, it doesn't really change too much because we still have the 2 disruption cards. I could also see Pal Pad going in here. So there's a handful of like one-of cards. I'm not saying that this is the perfect list. I think what I really took away from this is Lawsuit Box seems really good with Latias, and Sylveon EX seems like a pretty good attacker if you can get it off. And that's kind of where I was left when it came from playing this deck. There was moments where Sylveon was really good. There's a moment where I had a few key misses when I was playing this deck. But overall, I think it's an interesting concept. Certainly adds some elements there. And it's enough where I'm going to be picking up my Sylveons from Kayfabe cards. I don't think I'm going to be playing them to Sacramento. But it's really one of those cards where I think I'm going to be upset if I don't pick them up now. And then they become really good in 3 months or 6 months. And that's really where I base my collection around. I'm like, am I future-proofing myself by picking them up now? And I think that there's certainly enough there with these Terra Pokemon and the way that they keep on making these sets around these Terra Pokemon with different cards that can kind of support them. I think we're really close to just seeing Sylveon EX get there. So I'm excited. I think this is a really cool deck. Again, the list is available in the description. You can copy and paste it right into everything except PTCG Live because it's not available on PTCG Live yet. Check out Kayfabe Cards for all their selection of cards, including pre-orders for Surging Sparks once those are available. And if you're trying to build this deck on PTCG Live or for when the set is up, consider picking up some code cards at ptcgostore.com using code TSS5 and saving 5% off your order. You can build up those your collection, get some credits, and then craft whatever you need, or save your dollar bills for those Surging Sparks codes as soon as they're live on that website. Let me close things out. I have a few closing thoughts that I want to run over, and then that's going to be it for today's video. So yeah, Sylveon, pretty cool card across the board, and maybe you'll find so yourself. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Sylveon. We actually, I think before this video goes out, we should have some gameplay going on. So if you haven't got a chance to check out our tabletop gameplay, PJ and I, at least the two of us right now, are releasing 1 to 2 videos about a week, featuring some new Surging Sparks decks in action via tabletop. I have my new setup here as part of my Mac Studio setup, so I'm really excited about that, really improving on our content side. And it's about an hour long, trying to get a best of 3 or 1 really good game depending on the gameplay, just against some popular matchups that people kind of see exactly what's going on with these decks. Are these decks cool? Maybe you learn a thing or two. So check those out. Sometimes they have updated lists. Sometimes these deck profiles have updated lists. And maybe I have some tidbits of information in between both where I'm like, hey, maybe I want to add this, or maybe I want to add that. Because a lot of these times we're using these as our early testing grounds. So I don't want to be like, this list is perfect or anything else like that. It's a good starting point if you're trying to build anything. And maybe it makes this format a little bit more digestible for you as you kind of get ready for tournaments like Sacramento, picking up these cards from your local game store, getting ready for a League Cup, League Challenge, whatever local night. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to make it Pokemon accessible for everyone from a super competitive level. So that being said, I'm going to be playing these decks, at least probably a Surging Sparks legal deck for Sacramento. So I'm going to be over at there the week after the Latin American International Championship. So I'll be part of the kind of first change of this format. So you'll probably see me playing a deck that we've kind of featured on the channel. Not sure which one yet, but that's why we're doing these testing videos and learning a little bit more about the metagame. That being said, I appreciate everyone for tuning in on this video. If you're trying to up your game, hit me up for some coaching at metafy.gg/@ZachLesage. Beyond that, just check out the description for anything in the links. We have additional videos, links to our Metafy group, all that great stuff. Would be awesome to see some of y'all join there for our extra content or anything else. Any questions you got, shoot me a DM. Beyond that, I'll catch up with all y'all later. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.